Croeso nôl pawb, welcome back everyone. Thank you everyone. Diolch yn fawr. Thanks ever so much for that last part of the meeting. We're going on with the other more regular items now. I've confirmed with Nicola the recording is back on. Right, okay, item 9. Item 9, the minutes of the previous meeting, starting on page 43. Call the pages first of all. 43, 44, 45, 46, and 47. Members happy to receive these minutes? Thank you. I have no objections, so we'll accept the minutes. Confirmation of their accuracy. Nothing urgent arising from them. I see no indications either. So, item 10 then, closure of the accounts 2020-2021. This item begins on page 49 in the pack, right through to 132. We call on Hugh Jones to introduce this then, please, Hugh.
Oh, thank you, Chair. And firstly, apologies for the background noise. I'm in the Civic Centre and there appears to be some renovation work going on in the room next door, so please apologise for the drilling that you can hear. Yes, this report brings in front of Governance and Audit Committee members the statement of accounts for the 2020-21 financial year, the draft accounts. I have my colleague Diane Mulligan, who is our Chief Accountant Technical, on the call as well. So if members do have any particular specific questions, then either Diane or myself would be happy to take them, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Colleagues, you've heard Hugh. So anywhere in this in this section, if you have any comments or questions, please indicate. I can see one, so Councillor Robert Wood. Rob.
Thanks, Chair. I've got a question for Hugh. I mean, obviously, I haven't got any accounts qualifications, and I'd just like you to point out from the reports. I've looked at the liabilities and the debt angle. Taking account of our income, how much roughly do we owe as a council?
Bear with me a second and I'll try and find the relevant the page, Councillor Wood, if you don't mind. Unless Diane wants to interject, but I look.
Nicely succinct question there.
It is.
I suspect there'll be a simple answer and a complicated answer.
If you don't mind, Chair, would you mind if I provided a response to Councillor Wood outside of the meeting, and I could provide some figures and some detail as well? Would that be okay, Councillor Wood?
Yes, that'll be okay, and maybe any explanations that go with them. So
yes, I'd provide a more comprehensive response then, if that's okay.
Thanks for that, Rob. I'm looking. I don't see any other hands, so if there aren't any other questions, so we're looking at the accounts being closed and the report which is presenting that to us. I'm just waiting. Yes, there's a hand up. So it's Councillor John Miller. John. I can't hear you, John. I don't know if it's anything to do with your mic. It doesn't look as if you're muted. Could hear you briefly. Do you want to try pulling the headset out just for a second?
Chair, could he perhaps text it in the chat section?
John, unless it's a very long-winded, complicated question, perhaps you could, can you access the text, the chats? Okay, so we let John do that. So I won't close the item for a minute. I'm just wondering aloud, it's different items of technology work in a different way, you know, people with iPads, people with laptops. And I've seen it before that people with the headsets in have a different response to when they're just speaking to the device's own microphone and speakers. So I just wondered if John pulled his headset out, it might work in a different way. But anyway, we let him type now. You'd have to pull them out of pull the plug out of the laptop if you're doing that, and put yourself off mute.
You hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yes.
I put it in the chat, Chair. Basically, can the answer to Councillor Wood's question be circulated amongst all the committee, please?
All right. Yeah. Good point. Thanks,
Yeah.
John. Yeah. Okay. So that I'm sure will be done. Okay. And John, your hand is still up now. That is right. Now it's gone down. So we've learned something about John's headset. Right. There are no other hands, so we take this item as complete now. So members, we're noting this. I take it at the moment. This item is for noting. And we'll
Yes.
move on to item 11, which is starting, where are we? On page 133. So this is the 2020 through 2021 Internal Audit Annual Report. And again, I'll pass over to Hugh.
Thank you, Chair. Obviously, in addition to myself, Anne-Marie's on the call, and also my colleague Stephen Davis, who is one of our senior auditors who's undertaken some of the work on these reports. This report is the annual report in relation to the last financial year, and obviously it was an unusual year to say the least. Members will note, as we reported to committee in September, that the focus of the internal audit work for the year would be on high-risk areas and areas where controls may have changed as a result of home working. As I say, the report is very self-explanatory, Chair, and there are a number of us here who can answer questions if there are any.
Diolch, Hugh. Members, any questions? Right, I see none. Therefore, please can we note the content of this report as recommended on page 137. Diolch yn fawr. Right, we'll move on to item 12. Right, item 12 is the internal audit update report. This starts on page 141 in the pack. Members will be pleased to hear any updates from officers. So starting on page 141, pass over to Hugh again, please. Hugh Jones.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Again, this is the update report in relation to internal audit work undertaken during this year. If I could just draw members' attention to page 146, report reference R4, and just for the purposes of clarity, just to note that this is an interim report. The work has not been completed yet and it is ongoing. And in relation to the risk category, clearly I have inadvertently included an NA there, which is inappropriate and does stand for not applicable because there is no risk category yet, because as I mentioned, this work is ongoing. And with your indulgence, Chair, I'd like to ask Stephen Davis if you could give committee members an update in terms of the work that's progressed since this interim report was issued, if that's okay, Chair.
Yes, please, Hugh.
Yeah,
Steve, right,
Stephen, are you able to just to give an overview as to what's happened to date and any sort of deadlines that you've given for documentation, etc.? Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So basically, with this piece of work, we've been unable to go to schools, obviously, with COVID. So we're doing a few bits of work remotely. This is one we've done some on school meals. We do them on procurement cards. In this case, with DBS in schools, the schools utilise our HR vision system, but they don't utilise the IDOC system that council staff or HRUs. So that basically means that to confirm some of the DBS rules have been followed, we need associated paperwork. So with this report, basically, there's 99 members of staff that we can't say either way whether the rules have been followed or not until we ask for further information and get paperwork back from the schools. So that's why there's no assurance rating yet. Of the 99 members of staff, they fall across 44 different schools. Each of these schools have been contacted now, given a deadline, because obviously it's approaching the summer holidays and schools will be closed, to respond. And to date, we've had roughly 50% of the schools have responded to the initial emails. So it's basically just waiting out to them to get back to us with the requested information to be able to ascertain whether they have or not followed the rules. And then a further report will be issued based on the 99 that we still are unsure of. But in the main report, apart from the 99, all of the other members of staff were employed in line with the DBS rules and regulations.
Diolch yn fawr, Stephen. Perhaps as a Governance and Audit Committee, we could ask if you could just send a reminder to all the schools then, and giving them the strict deadline of the end of term. And
yeah, with 3 weeks to go, the plan is any schools that haven't responded will be contacted with a reminder email again next week. And then further to that, then I'll actually phone the schools who haven't responded to actually speak to someone and hopefully get information through, with the aim of getting the report ready before the end of term.
diolch. Joe Jenkins, Joe?
Thank you for your comments, Stephen. I'm just conscious that obviously the end of term will be approaching. If there are schools that still haven't communicated with you before the last day of term, my understanding is that administration staff will still be in schools. Will you, given the fact that the children won't be present, potentially teachers won't be present, will you actually go into the schools to mop up the final numbers? Because it's such an important question, and the whole issue of completeness for DBS checks has been an issue that this committee has been exercised about, certainly since I joined this committee, which, if my memory serves me back, was the best part of 10 years ago.
Yeah, hopefully it won't come to that, because like I said, the ones who haven't responded within the next week or so will get a phone call, and there's no reason why someone in the school won't, answer the phone and be able to get it through to me. Regarding school staff working over the summer, if they are in, some school staff on different contracts, some are on term time working, some are on the 40 week, which means they're in the office roughly 2 or 3 weeks over the summer holidays. But if they haven't responded, there's no reason why we can't go to the school and actually ask to view any paperwork they require.
Thank you, Steve. Vice Chair, Lynette?
Thank you. I was going to ask about the ubiquitous NA that appears in the report, but you assured us that that won't be used again because it is very misleading. But the other thing I wanted to do was to thank you for the substantial assurance that the COVID self-isolation support scheme and the transaction testing, hang on, yeah, was the other one. Oh yeah, the COVID self-isolation support scheme and the other grants that were specifically associated with COVID that I have been concerned about since COVID first began. I was pleased to see that there was substantial assurance that that has been well administered and that we've no issues. So I just wanted to place that on record. Thank you.
Thanks, Lynette. All right, I see no further hands showing, therefore. Oh, Joe, is your hand up again? Sorry.
Yes, it is. And this is just for completeness sake, because we're moving from one previous form of audit reporting to a new form. Now it's one of assurance rather than the previous system, which was a ranking 1 to 5. I'm just wondering, just for completeness sake, whether all the previous reports, other than those mentioned in this report, have been completed. So there's nothing outstanding that sits under any previous meeting.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, Hugh, are we?
Probably appropriate for Anne-Marie to respond on that, Chair. I can see your hand is up already. Thank you.
Yes, I was wondering, are we, transferring the methodology across, or are we just finishing off with the old? Anne-Marie?
Sorry, it is the intention that all reports going forward will have the new assurance rating. I understand that some of them will span the 2 years, but I think just for completeness sake, if everything issued from the end of May going forward, we have the new assurance rating on it. I just think for completeness that will make more sense.
So we won't see the old ones coming through again.
We shouldn't see the old ones coming through, and as we discussed in previous meetings, the concept is the same. It's just the wording that has changed.
Yeah, thanks, Anne-Marie. Okay, Joe. Good. Thank you. So I believe that brings us to the end of item 12. Right, item 13 is urgent items. I have no urgent items. And item 14 is access to meetings. Right, pursuant to section 100A 4 and 5 of the Local Government Act 1972, the public be excluded for the following items of business, which involve the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraph 12 and 15 of part 4 of schedule 12A of the above act. Somebody please